to her. And so there are 4 different cultural barriers to have this divine encounter. He goes to a place where there's racial, ethnic tension in Samaria. He speaks to a woman as a single man. He speaks to a Samaritan woman as a Jew. And as a rabbi, he speaks to a woman who has been caught in some sort of sexual sin. There are so many hurdles that Jesus takes to bring good news and to minister to this woman. I love what Desmond Tutu, the great Christian archbishop, said, who led the efforts against apartheid in South Africa. He said this: there comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. I love that quote. It's a good quote, isn't it? And Jesus goes to Samaria to find out what's happening because this woman has fallen into sin. She's fallen into the river of sin. And she's searching for love and significance all through sexual partners over and over again. But not her religion, not her background, not her immorality, not any kind of cultural issue hinders Jesus to go and minister to her. He pursues her. The final remarkable detail of the moment that can't be overlooked is the fact that from the passage, the woman at the well is not pursuing God in any way. This comes in contrast to chapter 3 of John, where Rabbi Nicodemus, the famous theologian in Judaism at that time, goes to Jesus and asks Jesus a bunch of questions. And he probably prepared them, had them all prepared in advance for Jesus. And by all looks of it, John put these 2 stories back to back with each other to help us see that Nicodemus, in some way, who was in the dark, he was in the dark spiritually, but he had some questions. But the Samaritan woman was just drawing water. And we get a sense that she wasn't even interested in God. And yet it's Jesus who shows up interested in her because he loves her. And the first part about us bringing good news to people in our community, friends, we have to take a lesson out of Jesus' playbook. And at times, we must break out of our Christian bubble and we must prioritize people who need to hear good news. At times, we must prioritize getting out of our Christian bubble and go to people who need good news. Sometimes people are searching for God and they come to us. And that's really nice. Maybe you have a relative or a friend who comes to you and says, hey, tell me about this church you're going to, or about your faith. I want to know. And when that happens, that really helps our sharing of good news, right? Like that does happen. Maybe it's happened to you. And it happens to me every so often. But the truth is that most people are not interested in the church or in Jesus on their own. The truth is that it feels oftentimes like a club that they're not invited to. Faith in Jesus and the church oftentimes feels like a club that people are not invited to. And so if you've ever gone to a Christian school, I'm a Biola grad. I know we got some CBU students, APU, Point Loma, the one, Point Loma over there, Katie, right? A few, we got a couple, right? Or a Christian high school, right? Yep. You know the term Christian bubble. You heard this in chapel, right? Everyone hears this in chapel at a Christian school. And the Christian bubble is anytime you're surrounded only by people who are Christian all the time. And it happens when you're in a Christian university. Like you go to chapel, you go to Christian classes, everything is all around Christian people. You know you're in a Christian bubble when all of your friends say they're Christian, they go to church. You know you're in a Christian bubble when the people that you interact with are all believers. You know you're in a Christian bubble when you can't remember the time or a time recently that you sat down for a meal with somebody who didn't believe in Jesus. And the Christian community is wonderful. Let me just affirm how good it is to be in God's house. Love Sunday morning. And thanks for being here. You made it. We talked about that last couple of weeks with gathering together, how important Sunday mornings are. I know all the obstacles to get here. This is wonderful. This sets in motion our faith, our hope, and our love every single week. I love life groups that we got to launch this past week. How important it is to come after a busy week to a group of people that pray for you and you can know and be in community with. We love our Christian schools. My wife teaches that one. We thank God for the school that she teaches at. We thank God for Christian elementary schools in this area and Christian high schools. We love that. But our Christian communities were not given to us by God simply to escape the very people who God came to bring good news to. Amen? Amen. Our Christian communities were not given to us as a gift so that we could just escape the very people who need the mercy and the grace and the good news of Jesus. And so at times we have to leave our Christian bubble and prioritize proximity with people who need Jesus.